A king of the savannah was dying, but it wasn't hyenas, it wasn't buffalo, and it wasn't even a rival coalition that came to finish him. It was his own sons, and on that day, in the heart of the Serengeti, nature proved something terrifying. In the wild, the throne never belongs to the king. It belongs to whoever is willing to destroy blood to take it. Tonight, you'll witness the true story of a lion empire that collapsed in 3 brutal acts: invasion, betrayal, and sons who became executioners. Welcome to Animal Spirit Tales. This isn't just the story of a lion that lost his crown. This is the story of how one of the most powerful lion dynasties ever observed was destroyed from the inside out, and how every king that rose to the top paid for the exact same mistake, believing power could be passed down without bloodshed. And the ending is worse than any hyena attack. Go back to 2002. In the Serengeti Mara ecosystem, a brutal stretch of land between northern Tanzania and southern Kenya, there was a territory that seemed untouchable. Open plains, crocodile-filled rivers, dry earth cracked under a punishing sun. Out here, every patch of grass is contested with teeth, claws, and death. And in the center of that battlefield lived one of the most formidable lion prides ever documented in the region. More than 20 lions, experienced lionesses, growing cubs, and one dominant male ruling over all of them. Zuberi. Zuberi wasn't just strong, he was rare, larger than average, heavier, more disciplined in the way he used territory. For 6 years, an eternity by lion standards, he held control over a dangerous border zone between the Serengeti and the Mara. And border territories are the hardest places to rule, because that's where invaders test their chances, where coalitions emerge from nowhere, where one mistake costs you the throne and your life. But Zuberi had an advantage. He didn't rule from one place. He turned his kingdom into something almost impossible to predict: a moving empire. When pressure rose, he relocated with the pride. When the threat was small, he attacked and crushed it. The lionesses hunted with confidence. The cubs grew up without fear. And when young males started maturing, they were pushed out before they became a problem. Zuberi understood a rule many kings learn too late. In the savannah, blood does not guarantee loyalty. Then the dry season came. The ground hardened. Water became scarce, and the savannah entered that dangerous silence that comes right before violence. That's when they appeared. 3 young males, 4 to 5 years old, in their physical prime, moving like an extermination squad. Researchers tracked them for years by codes, but after what they did, they earned names. Tal, the biggest, the dominant one, the leader. Kes, fast, direct, the enforcer. Boma, the youngest, quiet, patient, the most dangerous kind of predator. A lone male tests borders. A coalition erases empires. Most people imagine lions solve everything with brute force. The deadliest ones don't. They calculate. And that's exactly what Tal, Kes, and Boma did. For weeks, they studied Zuberi's territory. They roared at night to measure his response, watched his movement patterns, rotated access to water, applied pressure without exposing themselves. They didn't want a fight, they wanted the right fight. One where the king would arrive tired, isolated, and in the wrong place, and the drought gave them exactly that. Because there was one fatal problem. The only reliable water source in the area was inside Zuberi's territory. He couldn't simply run with the pride. If he retreated too far, they'd lose water. If he stayed, he would have to fight. By then, the throne was already surrounded. Zuberi answered like a king. He roared. He stood his ground. And and when the threat became unavoidable, he moved out alone. Not to save his crown, to protect his cubs. It was his noblest decision, and also his death sentence. The clash happened at sunset, under a burning orange sky. 3 young bodies against one experienced monarch. The fight was explosive, violent, short. It lasted less than 3 minutes. 3 minutes of dust, impact, and roaring, and then it was over. Zuberi fell on the same dry earth he had defended for 6 years. The king was dead, and an era turned to dust. In the days that followed, the new regime did what nature demands of conquerors. They eliminated the previous bloodline. Cruel, brutal. But in lion society, this is strategy. The lionesses resist when they can, fight when they can, mourn when they must. But when power shifts, the cycle begins again. Tal, Kes, and Boma now ruled the territory. For a while, the machine worked. Tal dominated. Kes enforced. Boma watched. But shared power between adult males is never peace. It's just an armed truce. Then, without warning, Kes disappeared. And the savannah usually leaves signs when it kills something. Vultures, scent, drag marks. This time, nothing. As if the second warrior had evaporated. Poachers, human conflict, a fatal mistake beyond the border. No one knows for sure. What mattered was simple. 3 had become 2, and that's when the fracture began. Tal roared more, Boma watched more. One was asserting dominance. The other seemed to be waiting. The territory stayed strong. The new bloodline survived. Outside invaders were driven back, but the enemy that would finally destroy Tal didn't come from beyond the borders. It came from inside his own body. At first, it was subtle. He panted more as he ate, ate less, moved slower, lost muscle, the kind of decline that is worse than a wound in the wild. Because weakness tells every creature around you that your time is running out. And then Boma did something that reveals more about power than any battle ever could. He didn't attack. He simply withdrew. He stopped appearing beside Tal, stopped reinforcing his presence, shifted completely toward the lionesses, toward the center of the future, and left his old ally alone. No support, no shared dominance, no protection. Tal didn't die in glorious combat. He was erased slowly, isolated, weakened, abandoned by the only partner he had left. The lion who helped kill a king was now dying with no one left to answer his final roar. With Tal gone, Boma did something almost unheard of. He became a near solo dominant male over a massive pride. And against all odds, it worked. Because Boma didn't rule like Tal. He didn't depend on explosive violence. He ruled through presence, always central, always visible, always where he needed to be. He made it feel like he was everywhere at once. And sometimes, in the wild, that is more effective than raw force. For years, Boma held the empire together, but nature collects its debt from every king. The years passed, and the cubs of the new generation grew. Among them, 2 young males started standing out. Strong, coordinated, confident, they hunted with the lionesses. They learned angles, timing, pressure, patience. In other words, they were being trained by the perfect machine built to overthrow a king. And here is one of the cruelest rules in lion society. When a male cub matures inside his father's territory, he stops being an heir. He becomes a threat. In the savannah, there is no peaceful succession. There is only expulsion or war. Boma knew that, and for some reason, he waited too long. At first, the change was almost invisible. The young males no longer looked away as quickly. They no longer gave ground with the same urgency. They no longer behaved like sons. They were starting to behave like rivals. And then came the moment every king fears. The second respect turns into calculation. The attack came without ceremony. No long warning. No dramatic challenge, no glorious duel. Just efficiency. The young males used the exact same tactics they had learned by watching the lionesses hunt. Multiple angles, pressure from both sides. No room to pivot, no room to counter. The old monarch, scarred by years of rule, no longer had the same body. And against two young males, coordinated and fearless, that was the end. Boma fell the way many kings fall in nature. Not because he forgot how to fight, but because time had taught the next generation exactly how to beat him. And the cruelest detail of all, he died alone, just like Tal, just like Zuberi, the lion who survived invasions, betrayals, and years of war, was destroyed by his own blood. Zuberi was brought down by a coalition. Tal was consumed by weakness and abandoned by his ally. And Boma, the coldest of them all, the most patient, the most adaptable, survived everything, only to learn the one rule no king can break. In the savannah, sons do not inherit the throne, they test the crown with their teeth. Power punishes those who divide it, it destroys those who hesitate, and sooner or later, it devours everyone who holds it too long. Because in the wild, the throne never belongs to the king, it belongs to the next predator. If you want more true animal stories where nature shows its darkest side, subscribe to Animal Spirit Tales. Because here, the wild isn't cute, it's merciless. And tell me in the comments, which king suffered the cruelest fall, Zuberi, Tal, or Boma?